Episode 23 is live. Welcome to Rookies Roundup. I'm Jake Liker. It is 5:01 p.m. 23 episodes. Who'd have thought it? It is January 12th here in Los Angeles. The NFL playoffs just wrapped up for this week anyway. We get a lot more next week. The football gods got it their way. We will have Brady versus Manning. We will have Seattle versus San Francisco. It's bound to be pretty exciting. And because of this fantastic week of sports, we have the usual guests here, but we finally get the one who we talk about a lot. Not really, but we talk about enough that it's not creepy, but never brought him on. Carl couldn't make it because he had something else to do. So, without further ado, Noah Taborda, and for the first time, Joe Levin. Joe, since you were here first, you get to go through this shameless self-promotion and opening statement.
Well, I'm flattered that you make creepy comments about me on your show all the time.
No, I just clarified that it was not creepy, Joe.
Probably creepy.
Thanks, Joe. Anything you want to self-promote shamelessly?
Not really. I'm good.
All right.
Happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for being here. And Noah, what about you?
Well, I will shamelessly self-promote. 183 likes on Facebook. It has not moved up in 5 days, so I kind of hope it does. And our Twitter, which is really, really bad. Like, it's lagging. It only has 4 followers, which is significantly less than Jake. You should follow it. And I'm glad to be on the show.
I'm not even going to ask you guys to follow the Rookies Roundup on Twitter because I just don't really use it. Most of the stuff comes from my actual Twitter, so follow me at Jake Liker. Trying to get it to that 50 follower mark. It has now been day 12 with the Twitter and counting. Also, do, however, like Rookies Roundup on Facebook. Share, tell your friends, tell everyone you know, and maybe they will listen. If you would like to call in, please do so. That never really happens, but maybe, there's a first time for everything. 310-922-9536. If you want to call and check out the green bubble below, we promise we don't bite. Because we're not creepy, on the contrary to what Joe said. Let's get right to it. NFL playoff action underway. Great weekend of divisional football, but let's face it, it was nothing compared to what we saw last week. First things first, Seattle and New Orleans. The Saints cut it close at the end, but like the Seahawks, Saints, Marcus Colston's pass is moving forward. And so we'll have Seattle meet San Francisco next week. Thoughts from this game, Noah?
Well, it was how I thought it would be. Seattle's defense was just too good. New Orleans really couldn't do anything. What kind of surprised me is Seattle's offense, actually. Only with 13 first downs compared to New Orleans' 25. So I do think they have to work on that. And you're not going to beat an elite team with 7 points in the second half? You can't beat a team like that. But they did get the win. Their defense, as always, played phenomenal. They didn't close out the game. They gave Saints a little bit of hope. But Marcus Colston, of course, screwed that up for them. But all in all, good game for Seattle. New Orleans, you know what? Impressive considering they kept coming off a really tough season after the bounty scandal. But personally, I think Seattle just continues to impress me.
Yeah, the Seahawks' 12th man actually registered some seismic activity. It is not easy to go into Seattle and win. Talk about Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll went 52-0 at USC when he wins the turnover battle. And I believe he's something like 25-3, 26-3 in the NFL when Seattle wins the turnover battle. And it doesn't hurt when you're trying to win the turnover battle if you've got guys like Brandon Browner and Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. Joe, your thoughts?
I don't know who's going to go into that stadium that loud with that defense and win a game. I mean, that combination is just deadly. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to get past them. And the Saints weren't able to do it either.
Yeah, it must be a tough position to be an Arizona Cardinal fan, Do you root for whoever's playing against Seattle, or do you root for the Seahawks so you can say that you are the only team to beat them at home? The Arizona Cardinals Twitter has continually pointed out that they are the only ones to beat them at home. We get the point. Seattle is still moving on in the playoffs. Arizona didn't even make it that far. But all in all, interesting game. What do we think New Orleans needs to look at for next season? Because, a lot of teams are trending up. I don't really look at the Saints and see, wow, there's so much this team could improve on, except for maybe the performance of Drew Brees. Joe, your turn to go first.
What the Saints can do to improve, or the Seahawks?
What the Saints can do to improve.
They still really need a running back. They've always had average running back play. If you could get a good running back with Drew Brees, that'd be a tough combination to stop, just offensively.
Yeah, and I feel like the development of Kenny Stills is definitely going to be something to watch. Young wide receiver, but he really made some big plays this year. And I thought the defense was such a huge improvement. I mean, Cowboys fans just have to be shaking their head that Jones let Rob Ryan get away from Monty Kiffin. Noah, what do you think?
Well, look, the Saints, Drew Brees, the performance of Drew Brees, he's still one of the best quarterbacks. They were going up against a really hard defense. And I think the running back could be an important thing, but there aren't many running backs in this year's draft that I say go for in the first round. They're picking, 27th? So that's pretty far down. So when I look at that, I have to say that you probably want to address a defensive position. Their run D is bad. They need to get a better defensive line that can really make an impact up front, that can slow down a guy like Marshawn Lynch. Second round, maybe you go. Maybe if Kadeem Carey's still left on the board, maybe a Leish Seastrunk or a Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, I feel like, bolstering the offensive line wouldn't help. You've got some free agency issues there. Center Brian De La Puente is going to be on the free agent market, or as I like to call him, Brian of the Bridge, for all you Spanish speakers out there. But overall, the Saints, if Drew Brees can learn to really play on the road, become less, mistake-prone, I think the Saints might be able to find a way to turn it around. You never know with Sean Payton. And another theory would be just go with onside kicks every time. It went 3-3 this year. I don't know what it is with New Orleans and onside kicks, but things seem to work out pretty well for them when they go in that direction. We'll talk about the matchup for Seattle next week after we talk about the San Francisco game. But the game after that was New England versus Indianapolis. And it seemed that experience defeated the youngster. Brady came into the game 11-4 at home in the playoffs. Andrew Luck had not played a single road playoff game at that point. And it was surprising to see that Tom Brady didn't throw a single touchdown pass, but LeGarrette Blount ran away in that one. 4 touchdowns, over 130 yards, I believe. And the Patriots will be moving on once again. Noah.
Look, I picked the Colts. And for a little bit there, it looked like they could do it. They came back within 7 twice. Here's the difference. Andrew Luck, when he needed to perform his best, he was unable to. He was unable to put points on the board when they had chances to tie, and Tom Brady, being the great quarterback that he is, was able to orchestrate drive. Didn't throw touchdown passes, but LeGarrette Blount able to run it in. And that's the mark of a great quarterback. Somebody who, when they need to, performs their best. Andrew Luck, 4 interceptions, that's not going to cut it away from home. Tom Brady, sure, only throws, less than 200 yards, but he didn't throw a pick. Had no turnovers. The team took care of the ball, and in a game like this, that's so important. I expect the Colts to come back better next year, but you were right. I'm going to simply say that, Jake, you were right. The experience really played a factor. Andrew Luck did not know how to handle this game, in my opinion. Made a lot of young player mistakes, and it ended up costing them, and the Patriots ended up with the win.
Yeah, I would gloat, but considering that I got both games wrong today, I might not be in that position. Joe, what were your thoughts from this one?
I really don't think that game was Andrew Luck's fault. I just don't think the Colts are that good of a football team. Other than Andrew Luck, who do they have? They have no offensive line whatsoever. Donald Brown is their second best offensive player now that Reggie Wayne's out.
T.Y. Hilton.
Okay. It's really not good on that team. If you gave Andrew Luck just a little bit of some weapons, a defense at all, they could go really far. That game's not on Andrew Luck. That's on the front office.
I'm just going to say that they proved this season that they could do it without their offensive line against the Seahawks and the Broncos, given it was regular season. They were able to put up a lot of points. It's just a whole nother... I think Andrew Luck is a phenomenal quarterback. I think he made 4 mistakes. He didn't make many mistakes, but he made 4 mistakes. Those mistakes were costly. I agree with you, though, that they do have a lot of holes. This team does have a pretty bad defense, and that really did show against LeGarrette Blount. But 4 mistakes is all you need to lose a game, really.
Especially in the playoffs against Tom Brady. But I want to point out here, Indianapolis struggled on the road this year. No matter who you blame, this entire team did not show up on the road, especially their defense. This is a team on the road. Their opening road game, they beat San Francisco 27-7. The 49ers were in the middle of dealing with some big injuries, so it looked like, maybe this team would do well. They beat Jacksonville 37-3. Their next road game, they lost in San Diego 19-9. They put up 9 points on Monday night in Qualcomm. On the road against Houston, Case Keenum's first professional start, and it took a game-winning field goal to get the victory 27-24. In Tennessee, another game-winning field goal they needed against Ryan Fitzpatrick to win 30-27. In Arizona, they gave up 40 points, lose 40-11. In Cincinnati, they gave up 42 points, 42-28. In Kansas City, they won 23-7, probably their biggest road win of the year. And then on the road, they gave up 43 to New England and fall 43-22. The defense isn't getting it done, and especially not on the road. Andrew Luck can play as good as he... Andrew Luck could have had his best game, the way I see it, and still not have won that game. You cannot give up over 40 points in back-to-back playoff games and expect to win. Consistency needs to be established with this team. You cannot lose games against Miami and Kelvin Clemens and the Rams and then go on and beat the Seahawks. Something's got to give here. They're turning a little bit into what the Steelers used to be like. They don't seem to prepare for the not as big games, but when they need to step up, they do. And this time the buck stopped here. You could not beat Tom Brady in the playoffs in Gillette with a team like this. So the question is, what do the Colts have to address going into the offseason? Joe?
I would start with the offensive line. That might be the worst in the league. And as I play offensive line, so I'm biased to that. I pay more attention to that than a normal person. Offensive line needs help. The entire defense needs help. I honestly think that it's a mess. And if they weren't in such a bad conference, they would probably not make the playoffs.
No.
Well, I look at this team, first of all, they don't have a first-round pick, so that doesn't help. It's going to the Browns. The offensive line, yeah, it's pretty bad. They're not awful. They're not the worst in the league statistically, but it's too much pressure on a playoff team, on a guy like Andrew Luck, who isn't perfect yet. He's not the best in the league yet. He does need a little more time, especially to develop into a better quarterback. So they'll be picking in the second round, and it won't be till very far down. By then, a lot of the difference makers are gone. So I'd probably see them going with an inside linebacker. Their linebacker core needs a lot of help. Honestly, no matter where they go, besides quarterback, I wouldn't really see a problem with it because they do need a lot of help basically everywhere.
I think when you look at the Colts, there's more holes in this team than we realize. You got to pick someone in the front seven. If you look at their opponent rushing yards, they're 26th in run defense, giving up over 125 yards on the ground per game. Maybe get more pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And look, they went up against the weakest offensive line in the league in the Miami Dolphins and lost to them at home by 4. And this was when Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin both had to work together in this case. I feel like that speaks volumes. Hindsight, as they say, is 20/20. And if you look back, if this team had a stronger run defense, we could have seen a much better team. Defense wins championships, and in the final 2 games of the season, you go in and give up 87 points, not going to cut it. Defense needs improvement. So does the offensive line. Colts perhaps might disappoint some people next year, but we certainly agree. Andrew Luck is looking up right now.